All right, hey everyone. This is a lecture video and a cheat sheet. I'm not going to have you take notes as you watch this video. Rather, I just want you to kind of, this is ironic, pay attention and be engaged as best as possible as we go through this information. And then I will give you this note sheet at the end. This is all very ironic that I'm asking you to pay attention because that is the actual subject of today's lecture. And I want you to be engaged in this learning process as we talk about being engaged in the learning process. So yeah, we're going to get into it. I just realized my door's not closed. I'm going to close my door real quick and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So don't let your mind wander off because that's exactly what you don't want to do today because we're going to be talking about that. We are talking today about attention. And the reason we're talking about attention is because last week we went into the basics of information processing theory, IPT, and we learned that learning is a five process sequence. It's not exactly that scientific that you could boil it down to these five, but from my notes and my research and kind of my synthesis of ideas, it comes down to this. Learning occurs first step when someone takes in information or a stimulus through their senses, right? We have visual learning, we have auditory learning, we have hands-on learning. This is some sort of sense is interacting with the world. Then the second step is that learning occurs when a person pays attention to that information that they're perceiving through their senses. And that's what we're going to talk all about today. From that point, a person's paying attention, they are going to process that information in their working memory in such a way that they are connecting that information to what they already know or what they've already learned or what they're going to need to know, and they're making connections. And these two right here, I should have bolded them both, work hand in hand. When you pay attention to something in a certain way, it goes hand in hand with using your working memory to connect that information to existing knowledge. Okay? We're going to talk about these two today, I suppose. Really, just this number 2 is the main one, but number 3 is going to be naturally involved. Actually, number 4 is naturally involved in this as well. So all these middle sections of information processing theory are all involved today. Finally, second to last, learning occurs when a person stores the information in the long-term memory via synaptic connection of the neurons. So it's a neurological thing. It's learning that sticks because it's physiologically there. And then finally, that learning is it's kind of like the final state of learning is being able to use and recall information, what's called executive cognition. Now, you probably didn't think a whole lot about this, but when I say pay attention as the very second step, this is a loaded phrase. Paying attention can mean so much, you guys. It gets thrown around like crazy. Johnny needs to pay attention. But there are 3 different types of paying attention. And it's a theory called engagement theory. And that's what we're going to really dive into today. There's 3 ways to engage in learning, 3 ways to pay attention, 3 ways to focus. I'm going to use those terms synonymously. And the pinnacle of paying attention and engagement theory is that all of these 3 middle components, 2, 3, and 4, are occurring simultaneously. So let's walk through this. There's 3 types of engagement or paying attention. The first is called behavioral attention / engagement. Okay? And this simply means a person acts like they are paying attention. Okay? This includes things like the posture. Oops, I went caps locks. Posture shows attention. eye positioning shows attention. Hand movement for notes. Hand movement shows attention, right? In other words, a person's body looks like they're paying attention, okay? It essentially is the look of paying attention. However, if you've ever taught 7th grade like I have, you readily know that behavioral attention, I'm just going to say behavioral engagement, I like that word better, does not equal learning. Kids can act like they are thinking, but not think, right? That's the difference between this first type of engagement and the next ones we're going to talk about. You can have the posture of learning. You can have the hand movement of taking notes. Your eyes can be looking at the screen and at the teacher, and nothing can be going on in your brain, right? Behavioral engagement does not equal learning. Kids can act like they're thinking, but not think. However, despite that fact, often when a teacher or person tells another person to pay attention, they are referring to this behavioral attention. I want you to act like you're paying attention. In other words, hey, pay attention, Johnny. That's really code for, Johnny, I want you to behave. I want you to act as if you're paying attention. Stop disrupting the room, right? That's what's actually being said. So behavioral engagement / attention is the very first level of engagement theory. The second one is cognitive engagement / attention. Okay? This is a person is actually thinking about what they are learning. Okay? So this is typically all of the behaviors of behavioral attention plus thinking. Okay? This means the working memory is attending to what to the learning process and information at hand. So I'm going to use this exact moment. Right now, if you are thinking about these notes and what I'm saying, you are cognitively engaged. If your mind is wandering, you are not cognitively engaged. You could be sitting where you're supposed to be sitting. You could be writing notes right now. Your eye contact could be where it's supposed to be. You could be behavioral engaged, but it doesn't mean you're cognitively engaged unless you're actually thinking about what is happening right now. So the behavioral attention, behavioral engagement is this, it's like a baseline. It's like step one. Step two is cognitive engagement, right? And so this would mean that a student, this means that a student is actively trying to learn by obviously behaving, that's our step one, by behaving properly and synthesizing information. Okay, what does synthesis mean? Synthesis is the process of mentally comparing and contrasting new and existing information in order to make synaptic neuroconnections. I think that's the word I'm going for. It's you are taking in the new information and seeing how it fits with the old. right? Now, cognitive engagement is this idea that learning happens when we build onto what we already know. You can't just learn calculus if you're a first grader. You have to build your way up to it. And in the same way, you cannot just learn the skill of teaching or learn the skill of counseling or learn the skill of managing a business out of thin air. You have already some idea about how you do that. And then the idea of school is that we're adding on to it. Okay. So cognitive engagement is the second level. Here's my final note on this. This type of engagement leads to either, not, this isn't guaranteed, but either short-term memory or long-term memory. Okay. In other words, someone can be behaviorally engaged and cognitively engaged, but only store the learning in short-term memory. This doesn't mean it sticks. You can be cognitively engaged and it doesn't stick. Cognitive engagement does not equal long-term memory of content. Right? Memorization is a form of cognitive engagement. And we all know that once you memorize something, you got about 3 days or it's gone. I had, at one point, I remembered all of the lines from scenes 3 and 4 of Edgar for King Lear, Shakespeare's play, and I had it down by heart and I nailed it. And within a week of that play being over, I forgot all of it. Okay? I was very cognitively engaged in learning those lines and rehearsing those lines, but it did not equal long-term memory of that content. Okay? All right, finally, we have what's called affective, or some people call it emotional engagement / attention. Okay, you'll hear affective engagement or emotional attention, however you want to call it is fine. And this is a person is not only thinking about what they are learning, but are actually connecting what they are learning to emotion. Okay? This can include excited learning, right? This could be someone is excited about what they're learning. This could simply be importance, right? Someone sees how the content will be really useful later, so they're feeling this sense of this is important, right? It could also be the type of, we'll call this relational learning, right? This is what someone is learning directly affects or relates a personal situation that they have experience with. Okay. The example I always give is picking books for 7th graders. 7th grade boys hate to read. But if you pick the right book that just connects to a certain individual on a really deep level, all of a sudden they want to read it, and they want to read it and pay attention to it. You pick some silly book that they have zero interest in, they're only going to be behaviorally engaged at best. But if you can find that book that really connects or speaks to them, they will be emotionally engaged. So affective engagement or emotional engagement is the hallmark of learning. Okay, this is the goal. This is what we want. This is how things, you really, 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 really want your teaching to be effective engagement oriented teaching. Okay, you want your teaching and student learning to ultimately be rooted in emotion. Why is this? Well, we learned earlier, long-term memory relies on a feeling of meaningfulness. Okay? So again, Oh, wow, typo. We go back up to this list. So learning occurs when a person pays attention to the information they perceive. Okay? So this is behavioral attention. Okay? If I were to color code it, I'll make this like red. Behavioral attention is, hey, they're paying attention. Step 3 is that they're using their working memory to connect that information. So that's what we would call cognitive attention. Okay? Boom. This is literally 1-to-1, y'all. And then finally, they store that information in long-term memory via synaptic connections of the neuron. This is only done when something resonates with a person and is really meaningful. I'll make it purple. That meaningfulness leads to long-term memory. Okay, so we made it purple because at this point, the student is learning in such a way that they want to learn. Okay, when a student or person is emotionally engaged, it means they want to learn. Okay, it means they want to learn. They are not just learning for the grade or in order to memorize. They are learning because they value what is being taught and what they are learning. And when that value equals memory. Like, I wouldn't say that every single thing you ever valued you'll have in long-term memory forever. But the odds of you remembering something because you emotionally had a resonance with it is much, much, much higher than just cognitive engagement, which is like memorization, or behavioral engagement, which is you just acting properly. Okay? So, literally, these middle 3 phases of learning, of information processing theory, are essentially engagement theory at the same time. So based on that, what does this mean? Well, it means that teachers should really strive to make learning an authentic experience that matters to students. Okay? It also means that teachers need to get to know students. Right? We can create emotion. Teachers can create an emotional experience in the learning because they know a certain student well. Right? I can pick out the right book when I know the student well. I can use the right math examples when I know the student well. The other thing is, it also means that value of education must be showcased. The last thing you ever want to do is for students to wonder why they're learning something. If a student wonders why they must learn something, at best you will get cognitive engagement, and you're more likely behavioral engagement. Okay? If a kid or person knows why they are learning something and they trust that it is meaningful, they will most likely be emotionally engaged. Okay, those are my notes. Those are my notes for you. You can look back through this. It's all color-coded. I'm going to get rid of the color here because this is kind of a summary. But these are the notes. This is a cheat sheet. You can just use and use and use and just keep this on Moodle. Like, you can just pull it up as you need to. I'll download it as a PDF, put it on Moodle, and you can check this note sheet out whenever you need it. There is an assignment attached with this. It'll be here in this week 6. I'm going to make you tell me about your most meaningful learning experience. That's going to be your assignment for the week. It's that simple. It's going to be a bit of an easier week just because I know that we've had some limited Some students have had limited access to computers. Some students have been gone a lot lately, and I just know that right, I want to make this meaningful, and I want to make your learning not feel like busy work. So it's going to be a pretty easy week right here. All right, y'all, that's all I got for you. Check out the assignment right here. This video will be live very soon. See ya.